Hey guys, thank you for joining our first talk of the week on the design track. Super excited to be kicking it off. Like Aaron already mentioned, our topic today is we'll talk about how to raise funding without investing in the software development. So, So the top reason why the new products fail is because founders build those products without doing the proper homework beforehand. And what turns out, in the end, they get something that nobody wants. And they end up wasting months of work, tens of thousands of dollars, and end up being disappointed and burnt out. And today's challenge is not build more products, not to ship or not to just ship faster, but also the challenge is to build the right product before you run out of the resources. So that's what we'll talk about today. A quick background about myself. So I moved to the US from Russia in 2009. I came here to pursue my American dream. I graduated with a master's in computer science, and before I got my diploma, I hopped on a plane and flew to the US, ended up here in Buffalo, which is home now. And in 2014, I started my web development studio. Before then, I was a freelancer. I worked for other agencies. And over 6 years being in business, I worked with local companies, startups, national brands, during which, that work experience, I was able to pick up best practices, see what's working, what's not working for those companies. And also, I've been closely involved with the Buffalo startup tech community in the last 6-7 years. And during this time, I came across hundreds of founders, not only in Buffalo, but also across the US, that dealt with the same challenges. There is this common theme among the founders that a lot of them get burnout or struggle to build a successful product or the company. And they waste a ton of money. They might build multiple MVPs and still don't get the results that they expect. We also, I work with the dozens of the companies, and we help them to design and build the better products. We also work with the companies to help them build and design interactive prototypes and raise the funding without building an MVP. As a founder of the Forcoda, I work with the founders or work with the founders on a day-to-day basis, and we focus on helping them to increase their main KPIs and raise the millions of dollars in funding. So and here's just a few examples of the clients that we worked with locally and nationally. MIT Bank, some of the 43 North companies, educational space, et cetera, et cetera. So the story that I'd like to share today is about the company called Transparency Registry. So they're a local tech startup in the blockchain space. And this is the exact story, the case study that we, were able to, the problem that we helped them to solve. So the problem was that they raised a little bit of money initially. They had a seed fund, but they were running out of the original investment because they hired a couple core team members. They started investing in the customer research, initial product development, but it was taking them a while to build the product because it was complex. They had to figure out a lot of things along the way. And after a while of putting all this effort into the company, they still didn't have finished MVP. So this is where we came on board to help them out and design an interactive design prototype for their product that they were building. And they went to raise the seed fund, and they used the UXUI design prototype to present to the investors. And they were able to raise 1.2 million seed round in 9 months, and they continued building their product, hired more people. It gave them a breathing room to continue growing their company. So here's one of the screenshots from the prototype. So what we've done, we help them to visualize complex data import processes. So the challenge for somebody in the, so this is a company in the debt collection fintech space. And the challenge for them was that in this debt collection space, there are no standardized processes of importing, exporting data. Everybody kind of doing their own way. Everybody using the different formats of the files with the records that they're importing. So we help them to figure it out and standardize the import processes. We streamlined and simplified confusing user flows. Again, because they're dealing with such a large volumes of data, we had to really take a closer look and figure out how we make it intuitive for the users and for the customers that might not be familiar or with those processes, to make sure that the future user onboarding process can be streamlined and can be simplified. And also our goal was to demonstrate product idea in a way that anyone can understand, regardless of the market knowledge depth, which is was very advantageous when they were presenting to the investors, because not all of them had that experience in the debt collection space, and the investors were really impressed with the quality of the prototype. And they said that they typically just see the stick figure drawings when somebody comes to them. So this was a huge selling factor for them. So, and yeah, here's a quick screenshot of the them raising those money. So this approach that we'll be talking about today, who is this for? Who can benefit from this methodology? So whether you're a founder, whether you're a product manager or a designer, these would be beneficial for you. So if you're looking for a better way to design digital products, if you looking to get measurable results and improve your product's ROI over time, this is the right approach for you. So this is for the startup founders that are looking to raise the seed round. And finally, take a deep breath. If you suspect that there might be a better way to test your product market fit without wasting tens of thousands of dollars on building out your product, developing an MVP, then you're also in the right place. And also, if you might have already had this experience building something, building an MVP, and you feel frustrated that you didn't get the results that you were expected, or you might have a product but you're still not getting any traction or sales with it, or you can't convince investors to fund you. And also, if you want to do it right from the beginning, if you serious about your product idea, then you're also in the right place. So this will be a huge help for you. So, and who this idea is not for those people that looking for a quick and dirty solution, right? So even with this approach, you're still required to put in the work. There is no magic bullet, unfortunately, for the startups to become successful overnight, but this approach will help you to avoid the common mistakes, will help you to avoid complications by hiring team too early and wasting budget unnecessary before you before you have any sales or commitment from the customers. So before we jump into the process, I wanted to give you an overview of why it is important to invest in UX UI design. And over the last, I would say maybe like 5 years, this is the trend I see among the founders and the companies. I see that founders start, getting up to speed and start understand more and more why it's important to invest in the quality design. Until then, a lot of companies would overlook it, right? They would invest into the engineering resources first. But I see now, more companies, whether, coming to us or just, in general, looking to, they see the value why the design is important as a part of the product development process. So, and here's some fun data, and it comes from Nielsen Norman Group, which is the leading research organization in the industry on the UX/UI design. And according to their data, companies get 135% ROI on the quality UX/UI design. And they recommend investing about 10% of the project budget in the UX/UI design. And so that investment in the design helps to increase key performance indicators that include, but not limited to, customer conversion rate, time spent on the platform, monthly recurring revenue, user retention rate, et cetera, et cetera. So those metrics could vary from customer to customer, industry to industry, because those will be unique to your company and your needs. But the most common ones we have here. So, and here's another screenshot from NNG. They conducted this research, and they identified 95 different KPIs, and they measured how better design helps to improve those metrics. And so, as you can see here, that there was only 3 metrics that didn't have any improvement after redesign, but the rest of the metrics showed significant improvement and increase. So I would say about maybe like one fourth, they saw an increase of 50% and more. So. And another fun experiment that was conducted by Jeff Tien, the director of product design at Facebook, in 2006. So what they've done, they created a UX fund. They took $50,000 and invested in the companies, in the publicly traded companies that were focused on improving UX/UI experience of their products. And what happened, so they held those stocks for 10 years, from 2006 to 2016, which included the major financial crisis in the middle of that period. And so at the end of the 10th year of the experiment, the companies in the UX fund averaged 450.1% gains compared to the NASDAQ 93.2%. So, which was a crazy difference, and the amazing growth for those companies. And so here's a list of those companies that they, which stock that they picked, and the only one that didn't grow was BlackBerry. So, but the rest showed really amazing performance. Yeah, and another report that was released this year by PitchBook on latest investing trends. So, which was right in the middle of the well, I would say like, I think it was like March, April, like early pandemic madness. So what the report actually showed very promising results. So they uncovered that VCs still continue investing into the companies. Now they just take remote meetings, and the most important thing that changed compared to the last year is that VCs focused less on executive team pedigree, but rather they shifted their focus to the company's business model, the path to profitability, and which means that more than ever, startups need to do their homework ahead of time before they go and pitch to the investors. The companies to invest into product R&D, secure sales or pre-sales before they go and pitch. And the average seed round in the US currently is around $1.1 million. So, and here's the screenshot from the PitchBook comparison from 2019 to 2020. So, yeah. Alrighty, so the core concept of this methodology that we'll be talking about today is you can raise $1 million seed round in 9 months or less without investing time and money into developing an MVP. And most entrepreneurs are not aware of this approach because this is a new information, this is the new approach. Also, the market is flooded with information, so it's hard to find that right approach that works for you. And also, in the last, I would say, 5 years, the primary focus was on building the products, building MVPs, shipping faster, these days it's that focus shifts towards more doing the customer, like spending or investing more time in the proper customer and market research before you go and build it. So the method, I call it blueprint method, is we'll talk about how we can how companies can raise 1 million or up to 1.2 million in funding in 9 months or less without building an MVP. So the old approach of how startups, the companies, the entrepreneurs were approaching the product development process, they would they will get an idea, they'll identify the problem that need to be solved, the customers, then they will go and do a little bit of the customer research, define the problem, then they will jump into designing an app. If the founders don't have a design or development experience, they might need to learn themselves how to design something or how to use the design tools. Then as they build it, right, they again, if the founder doesn't have a technical background, they have to figure out how to pick the right technology, learn how to code, or figure out how they can hire the right development team or freelancer to help them out to build the MVP. Then they go get customer feedback, and they go and pitch the investors to raise funding so that they continue building their product, get those sales, and scale the company. And the new methodology is that so after we identify the problem on the market, we invest time in the customer research in the problem, then we design an interactive prototype. And before we go and build it, we go get customer feedback. And once we get the customer feedback, we want and implement that feedback in our prototype and refine it until that prototype is, fits into our, matches our customer expectations. There are no challenges, there are no friction areas that customers are struggling with. And then after we polished up our interactive prototype, we go and get sales and pre-sales. And after that, only after that, we go pitch the investors, and which we raise that seed round, and then we go take those money to, invest into the development, scale the team, et cetera, et cetera. So let's take a look at each individual step and see why, this order, why it helps to generate better results for the startup founders. So the step one is do market research to validate the idea and get the problem solution right. So this is the number one mistake that I see startup founders make, is that they don't, first of all, they either assume that they know everything about their customers. A lot of founders, they're experts in the certain niche, or the market, which problem they're solving. So they assume that since they have that knowledge and experience, they know how to solve the problem and what the customers want. So old way of approaching this step is just building the product based on your own assumptions or your own market knowledge. And what happens as a result, it was very difficult to get that product market fit. Some founders might get lucky and get it right from the beginning, but a lot of the founders would struggle to identify that proper solution, and without being specific with which problems you're solving, it's tough to find the right solution. So the new methodology, the new way is to go really heavy on the customer research, do user interviews, schedule the calls with your customers to talk to them, learn about their challenges, learn about their pain points, hopes and dreams, right? So it's not just, and without selling them on any solution, right? This is the step where we just want to ask questions, learn as much as we can from the customers, and then see if the solution that we envisioned helps to solve their problems, because you might need to revise your idea. So, and at this step, we want to combine that customer data with our own knowledge to put together that right solution to the problem. And the new result is that now you clearly understand who your target audience is, what their needs, what their expectations, and now you can use this information as a foundation and create a design that resonates with the customers, which will subsequently lead to the higher sales, higher user acceptance rate, and you will also spend less time on the development down the road, because the design that you have already will be polished up and will be ready to get implemented. So, and yeah, here's an example of a few screenshots of the user persona profiles. You want to kind of outline who that person is, add some imaginary photos, put age, outline challenges, emotions they're experiencing, etc., etc. So yeah, and here's a quick insight. So more upfront research leads to better quality MVPs that resonate with target audience and generate more sales down the road. So, and I do have some questions here, but I think I'm going to skip over them right now, just because I want to make sure that we have enough time to go over all the steps, but we can come back to them later. So, and there will be Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So yeah, please post your questions in the chat. If you have any, we'll answer them. So the step number 2 is to design an interactive prototype. And again, how previously startup founders handled it. They would, if they didn't have a design experience, they would learn about UXUI design principles, tools themselves. They will try to design the prototype based on the assumptions. A lot of time that prototype wasn't interactive. It might be just some static design files, in Photoshop, Illustrator, whatever tool the founder might pick up. And old result would be the poor quality of the finished product, low customer buy-in rate, and the designs might look good, but they, you're risking to run into the poor user experience because, again, we haven't done that, homework, or, design might be based on the, the final result will be limited to the founder experience with the design. So, and the new approach is design an interactive UX/UI prototype tailored to your target audience. And the outcome of this is you will get higher quality of MVP. The MVP will resonate with the target audience. It will be, so when you work with the design prototypes, it's much faster and cheaper to make changes based on the customer feedback. So what happens, the further you move in the product development process, right? Idea phase, design phase, development phase, launch, and then further iteration. So the further you go, the more expensive it becomes to make changes. So if we're making edits to the design on this step, it's much faster and cheaper compared to if you start implementing these changes after you already develop your MVP, and only now you start getting the feedback from your customers. So, and again, you can use this, since this is, if you have this professionally designed, interactive prototype, you can use it to get pre-sales or sales from your customers or get some additional feedback. So it's really has a huge value for the product development process. So, and yeah, another quick insight here is that investing in the quality UX UI design upfront can get companies on average 135% ROI per each metric. Because if we clearly understand the target audience needs and expectations, we can create design that resonates with those customers and leads to the higher sales. The step 3 is get the customer feedback before you build. And I can't emphasize this enough, is how important this is, because that's another step that founders tend to overlook or just rush through it. So again, the old way of doing things, founders might explain the idea to the users without any visuals, or just show quick mock-ups in a PowerPoint or rough sketch, or even worse, wait till the MVP is ready to solicit customer feedback. So don't do it. If you're doing this, it's way too late in the process. And so the old result, the outcome of this process is that it would be frustrating for the founders, for the team that works on the product. You will see a low user buy-in rate once the product is finished, because, or even for the idea that you pitch into your potential users, because not everyone can visualize the data or visualize your idea. And even if they can visualize it, there is no guarantee that whatever they imagine in their head will match your vision for this product. So, and it's hard if you don't have any visuals when you present your idea to your potential customers. It's hard to get actionable feedback. The most you'll get is, yeah, this idea sounds cool, or yeah, I don't know, right? But it's just not enough information for you to make the decision about your product, next steps. And yeah, the product, you might end up with a product that doesn't match your customer needs and expectations, wasted time and budget on rebuilding a product down the road. Seen it happen a million times. And it will be expensive, and it will take much longer to change something during the development phase. And instead of taking few hours during the design phase to tweak something, it might take you days or weeks or even months to rebuild the functionality once you developed your product, and your expenses will multiply by 5-10 times during the development phase. So what would be the new approach here is to create an interactive design prototype to demonstrate to the users and get the clear, actionable feedback about what features they like, what they don't like. Maybe there is something that's missing from the MVP. You can also see exactly where users might be struggling with, because for you it might be something might be straightforward, right? Or you just click this button at the top to, add a new, upload a new file into the system, right? But for the users, they might be looking into the different part of the page. So it's a great way to see if there are any problem areas with your design before you go and implement it. So yeah, we want to go heavy in the research during this phase. Again, get as much data as possible from the customers and combine that feedback with your knowledge and implement it and refine the prototype. And the new result, because of this, is you'll get clear, actionable feedback. You'll have a higher user buy-in rate, and you also will start generating leads early in the product development process, because what happens, those users that you get in feedback from, since they're in your target audience, you're in that ideal customer profile, you will be pretty much pre-selling them on that solution. So what we've seen happen often, those customers that, people that customers use as a reference during the interviews, they became those first customers. So, and again, the conclusion here is that clear insights or clear visuals can help your target audience better understand the solution and provide actionable feedback. Implementation of the UX/UI design best practices leads to better quality MVPs that resonates with the target audience, and less development time is wasted down the road. So, if you're asking me how to conduct those user testing sessions, so the best way and the easiest way to do it is using Zoom calls or any of your favorites video conferencing software, and do the screen share. So, the key of the hosting a successful user testing session is, so get somebody who's in your ideal customer segment, encourage them to give an open and honest feedback, right? So ideally, I mean, if you have a friend who's in that customer segment, you know, is great. But if you can find somebody who's not, you know, who's not afraid that they might hurt your feelings by providing some negative feedback, you know, who's outside of your social circle, that's even better. So, and what you'll do, you'll send them the link to your interactive design prototype. So this should be the first time when they see in this design. And as they open it up, right, they do the screen share. Before the call, put together the list of tasks that you want them to perform. It could be something simple like, you know, register, create a new account, or upload the file, or, you know, see information about something on the screen. And after you give them a little task to perform, don't say or do anything. I know it can be tempting to guide the users and tell them, oh, just, you know, go click on that button, or just, you know, look there. But this is super counterproductive. So, because we want to see how users will interact with the interface. And also, so you also want to ask them to verbalize their thinking, so that way we can understand what, you know, what's going through their head, and also identify certain you know, maybe like friction points that, you know, user is going through, see how they feel about the you know, the design that's in front of them. And so, and after that, you know, watch them either in extreme agony as they struggle to figure it out, or maybe the opposite. Maybe they'll say, oh yeah, this is super easy, super straightforward, I have no questions, made total sense for me. So then, you know, thumbs up, that means you on the right track. And if not, if they still struggle, that means you can go back to the drawing board and improve your prototype. And here's an example of one of the customers that we work with, is a startup called Immerse Games. So they had this dashboard that we helped them to redesign, which, so this is the before screenshot. And they are also, they're very heavy on data, and they collect, so this is a startup in the educational space. They have this game that kids can play and learn about different STEM topics. They can learn about biology, science, ecology, etc., etc. So, and during this gaming process, they collect a ton of data that teachers then can use to analyze how their students performing. Are they meeting their, you know, like state educational requirements? What can be improved? What tasks they need to assign them? So there is a lot of data to analyze. And so we help them to redesign the dashboard and create it into one of the top selling features. So they also, before this was implemented, they used our interactive prototype to go and use it during the sales calls. And the feedback that they got from the teachers is that they were super excited about this new feature coming up, because they could, you know, get all this data now, and it made sales process so much easier and help to accelerate the closing rate of the customers. So, yeah, just a quick question: how many user testing sessions do you typically need? Ideally, we want to schedule maybe 3 to 5 sessions to uncover most critical issues, because you will start seeing the patterns during those interviews. And, you know, there is no need to host 10 or 30 if you already seeing the same problems that user experiencing. So it would be, you know, good to get that information, go back, fix things up, update it, and then schedule another follow-up call instead of, you know, doing 10, 30 interviews and getting the same result. So step number 4 is we want to refine the design prototype based on the feedback that we received in the previous step. And again, the old way of doing things was showing the product to the customers after it was developed, and only starting soliciting feedback from the customers then. And the outcome of that process was lower quality of the MVP. It would take more time. It would be more expensive to make any changes to the to your product after the development phase, and your expenses would multiply. So, and the new approach is to get the customer feedback before you start developing your product or service, and demonstrate to the users using an interactive prototype to get the clear feedback about what features they like, don't like, or might be missing from MVP. And then we want to take that feedback and implement during the design phase and continue refining the interactive prototype after each customer demo sales call. So even you can make even quick edits during even like every single call. If it's something, the user noticed that's a crucial element is missing, maybe, there is no next button to go to the next screen, right? You don't need to schedule 5 calls to just confirm that there is no button on the screen, right? You can go back and just quickly edit to your design and, move on to the next call. So the new result here is the higher quality of the finished MVP, MVP that resonates with the target audience. You will reduce your cost and time, the development time, by 5-10 times, and it will be faster to make the product changes. And as a final outcome, you will get the happier customers and happier investors. So the insight here is that you don't need to wait for the MVP to be ready to refine your product functionality. Ideally, you want to do it before the MVP. So, and so the step 5 is to sell before you build. And so the old approach here was to start selling on only after MVP was developed and live, because that's where the customers could go in and, play around and experience the product. And the outcome of it would be less cash in the bank. If customers are not willing to pay for the product, you would need to go back again to your drawing board, trying to figure out what went wrong, what needs to be improved. So also, if you wait too long to start selling, your competitors might beat you to the market. Or if you in the industry that has long sales cycles, like banking, educational space, if you sell into schools, you might lose that valuable time, and startup can run out of cash. So, and like we mentioned it in the beginning, right? The goal these days is to build the products before and, validate your product idea before you run out of your budget and funding. So the new approach is to use that interactive UX/UI design prototype to start pre-selling, which you can do, if you're, let's say, if you're an experienced designer or you're working with a designer or the company that does it for you, right? You can have an interactive prototype in a few weeks. So you can go and start selling within weeks instead of waiting months or a couple of years. So it gives you this advantage of taking your product to the market much, much faster. And the result is more cash in the bank, longer runway. You'll have established customer base once the product is live. You'll get more sales, avoid team complexity early in the process. So you can get paying customers or pre-orders within a few months, get traction. And again, you will have this proof of, proof business model, proof concept that you can then, you can use this data to show to the investors, which will make them very happy. And again, to refer that slide from the pitch book, that's what the investors are looking for. Somebody who's done that homework, validated their business idea, confirmed that this product has demand. So this is exactly what the investors want to see before they give you money. So, and the 6th and the final step here is pitching the investors to raise the seed round. And the old way of doing things was demoing the product using, so if dealing with the MVP, it's probably built quickly and dirty, right? So I've seen a lot of times where the MVPs are kind of like half functional. You might be, praying that your demo doesn't crash during the presentation, because Murphy's Law, right? Whenever you want something to be working correctly, it's going to fail you at the worst possible moment. So the outcome of this would be extra stress for you before those presentation meetings or during those pitch meetings. You might create a bad first impression with investors if you show them this half-baked product that is not polished, does not have paying customers yet, right? Like, well, what is this, right? How do I know that you can, my money will be secure with you if I give you, this funding to continue growing your startup. And yeah, it might seem like your product is not very well thought out if you don't have those, validation by the customers, or it looks like it's not, very high quality product. So the new way is to use that interactive design prototype that we already have, that's polished up based on the customer feedback, to add that wow factor to your investor pitch. So like I said, with the transparency registry case, they used that prototype to pitch the investors, and they were really impressed because apparently a lot of companies just have those, wireframes or sketch drawings that look, nothing like a finished product. So this really gives you a few extra points with investors. So, and yeah, the transparency registry, they raised 1.2 million using the prototype. So, and the new result that we see here is that investors can navigate an intuitive user interface, right? So the prototype, you can make it clickable to make it simulate the functionality of the finished product. And for the user that's not aware of the, how it's set up on the back end, this will look like an actual product that they will be using. So this will create a better first impression, will add more confidence in your approach to the business, because again, you're showing that you invested time and effort into your product at this step. You will be able to impress investors with your pre-sales and sales numbers even before your product is built. So we definitely want to make sure to go out and get some pre-sales, and investors will know exactly what they're giving you money for, which will be building that platform so you can start selling like crazy. And this will be create less uncertainty for the investors, and it will improve your chance of closing a bigger round much faster. So inside here is that we can use high quality UX/UI design prototype instead of a half-baked application during the investor pitch to get much better results. And just to summarize here, the process, the 6-step process that we need to follow to raise the $1 million in funding is to do the proper customer market research, design an interactive UX/UI prototype, get customer feedback on the application design, apply that feedback, and iterate the prototype several times until it's ready, and then start selling and pre-selling. And after that, pitch the investors and get your funding. So that is the approach. If you guys want to learn more, you can go to this link, forcoda.com 021 million. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Lena. That was great. I do have one question.
Yeah.
For the process in its entirety, generally speaking, what is the range of time frame for completion, from initial engagement all the way to having something that can be used for the investment conversation?
Yeah, good question. So let me see. I'm just gonna quickly scroll back. Oh, yeah. So again, depends how quickly you're moving through the process. So for the customer research and definition, you want to spend about 2 weeks on this process. Design could be, so design phase could take about, I would say, again, depends if you're doing it yourself, if you're working with a freelancer or you're hiring an established firm, right? So it might be moving faster or slower, but this phase could be like about maybe like 3 weeks or longer if you have very complex product. But on average, what we've seen is about like takes 3 weeks to design the prototype, and then get sales. Again, if you're an experienced salesperson, you might see better results faster. If you're still learning, it might take you a while to get pre-sales, and pitching investors that can take you to raise the seed funding can take anywhere from 6 months to a year. So but I would say like overall process from research and design could be about like 1.5 to 2 months. So
Great, thanks. Actually, there are no questions in the chat. If anyone has any other questions, please send them over. Elena, can you go to the last slide real quick? In the interim, while we're waiting, I will do one final plug for the design track schedule of this week. Currently, we're on the first one, right? You're all here. But we have some great additional events every day this week. Please feel free to sign up, or you can just join the day of. And we look forward to seeing you and educating you more on just design process and how it can benefit your company, whether it's big or small. So
yeah, and please share with your friends and network. So yeah.
I do have one. I personally have one more question in regards to tools. So you clarified that the process in itself takes roughly around 1 to 2 months, which is a great learning in that time. But for tools, what kind of tools are utilized to help facilitate this process?
Yeah, so for design, we personally use Figma as a design tool to both to create the user interface and create the clickable prototype. I've seen other companies or designers using Sketch for design and using InVision app for creating those clickable prototypes. So that's another option. The reason I like Figma is that it's, I think you get like up to 2 users free, and it's all encompassing, right? You don't need to switch between different platforms. So that's why I would recommend Figma personally. And then for hosting those user testing sessions, yeah, Zoom, Google Hangouts, GoToMeetings, any screen sharing software will work. Let's see what else. For initial market research, yeah, this is just, Zoom calls, phone calls, don't really need any tools. Maybe like I use Google spreadsheets to keep track of all the notes. So yeah.
Well, I guess that will conclude our session for today. And thank you again, Lena, for putting this together. And I hope to see everyone else at the other sessions this week. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us.